page 389, we'll sing the first, second, and fifth and sixth verses of Take My Life. 389, verses 1, 2, 5, and 6.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here this morning with you and take a moment to thank Jeanette and Joe for their work in organizing the service this morning and for the accompaniment. Thank you. Some of you may not know who I am. I think maybe most of the people in the room do know who I am, but for those of you watching, listening, I'm Dave Lawrenz, and I used to come around this place once in a while. I've retired 5 years ago from serving as the CEO of Timbercrest, and that was after about 43 years of being here. So quite familiar with many of you, and hope that many of you are still familiar with me, and very glad to be here. That was my past relationship with Timbercrest. Excuse me. My past relationship was, as I said, 43 years or so. I maintain a small relationship with Timbercrest in a couple ways now. My mother is still living here in healthcare, Betty Lawrenz, and I'm glad she can be with us. And another way is through my current role with an organization called the Fellowship of Brethren Homes. Fellowship of Brethren Homes is a consortium of the 2019 retirement communities across the country, from Pennsylvania to Southern California, from Washington State to Florida. There's around 19 communities that are Brethren affiliated, and they've come together to form the Fellowship of Brethren Homes, and that's been in existence for many years. And I serve as their executive director, which means I coordinate some of their group activities. One of those activities was last August. Excuse me, I haven't talked much this morning yet. I've said, yeah, I'm good. I thank you. Other than talking to the dog and cats this morning, that's about all I said at home. In August, we had a forum in Worcester, Ohio, Westview Healthy Living. And there we had a marketing consultant. And the marketing consultant talked about how to communicate our message, Timbercrest message, Westview message, Londonderry Village, Brethren Village, the messages from those respective communities, how to communicate that to their constituency. And what was shared was the need to share stories from those communities that exemplify the values upon which those communities were built and started, and the traditions. And those traditions are Brethren traditions. In all those cases, all were started through a Brethren connection. Although many now have very few Brethren living there or serving there, they were all started with under Brethren traditions and Brethren values. So one of the projects that came out of that was the desire to develop a video that would communicate those Brethren values to their employees, to their boards even, and to many of their residents, and to their broader constituency. So that's one of the things that I'm about right now. That's one of the projects I'm working on to see how we might best do that, and how do we, in a very short and concise video, communicate that to folks. And in doing so, I was reminded of a communication I had with staff when I was here several years ago. We had a monthly newsletter called the Crest Line that was shared with staff. And in one of them, I had a article, and it was titled Habits and Outcomes. And let me share just a couple short portions of that. We've all heard, sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. Good, positive thoughts should produce beneficial actions. Frequently repeated beneficial actions turn into healthy habits. Healthy habits shape us into good people, nice human beings, the kind of persons others want to be around, someone with high ideals and good intentions, dependable, trustworthy, reliable, truthful, respected, admirable, kind, conscientious, reputable, and thoughtful. So in our work lives, as I communicated to them, in our work lives, good things start with good thoughts and a positive attitude. I think we can all agree that we have control over our thoughts. Assuming we have no physiological or psychological impairment, we can think what we want when we want. No one can force us to think things we don't want to think. No one can force us to think in a way that is contrary to what we know and believe. We have the freedom, the right, and the power to choose our thoughts. Unfortunately, sometimes those thoughts can be misguided. With that in mind, it's important for us always to seek the truth and acquire information under the guidance of our one true God. We are encouraged to do so, And the Bible tells us, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. With divine control of our thoughts, we can be assured of spiritually guided actions. These are actions which reflect our faith, actions that glorify God, actions that are in the best interests of ourselves and others, actions that are positive and correct, legal, moral, ethical, kind, generous, gentle, helpful, caring, loving, humble, and thoughtful. And there's a key word, thoughtful. How often have we done something and then been criticized by someone or by ourselves, and we've said, well, that was thoughtless. Sometimes that means we just did something that was just plain dumb. But most often it means we did something that was unkind or uncaring or selfish or rude. It was an act that was not the result of a positive, faith-guided thought. Our thoughts naturally precede our actions. If we sow faith-guided thoughts, we will reap actions of which we can be proud. If we sow thoughts that are impure or unethical or reckless or even evil, the actions we reap will likewise be harmful, dangerous, unlawful, and uncaring. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. We reap what we sow. Thus, it is essential that we sow the right things and that we have the right seeds. When Timbercrest and all the other brethren communities and most communities hire new employees, the goal is to hire individuals who have the right stuff. Individuals who are kind, conscientious, honest, and reliable. These are qualities that are not easily tough. It's possible, but it is difficult. Fortunately, many of the people that Timbercrest hires seek ways to practice their faith in the course of their job. They want to do the right things in the right ways at the right time. That desire is a thought that arises from their heart and soul. A thought that arises from their heart and soul. These positive thoughts and intentions are the right seeds which result in positive actions. And having employees completing positive actions is the goal of every employer. Those right thoughts mean positive actions, which can evolve into habits, which can accumulate into favorable reputation for the business. It can evolve into a positive character for that individual, but in the aggregate, it results in a favorable reputation for the business, which ultimately means success. From thoughts to actions to habits to character to destiny. An organization is only as good as the individuals therein. One of the key aspects that we want to communicate, or I hope to communicate through that video that I referred to, is that our communities, Timbercrest and Fellowship of Brethren Home communities, are faith-based. That Timbercrest and these others are founded on faith-based traditions. Brethren traditions, brethren values, faith-based. We've used that term at Timbercrest for many years, and any organization can say that it's faith-based, but that means nothing if that professed faith isn't lived out in the actions of the individuals and the actions of the organization. It means nothing if the employees of the organization are not having positive thoughts, good thoughts, healthy thoughts, and completing actions which are consistent with their faith. Just so anyone, you and I, We can say that we have faith, but if that faith isn't obvious to others, if it's not obvious to others by our actions, then it means nothing. Obviously, our actions are visible to others. I look out at all of you right now, and I see what you're doing. I don't know what you're thinking, but your actions are in plain sight. Your actions right now are acts of worship, coming together in a place of worship, singing songs, hearing scriptures, listening to the preached word, praying, all actions of worship and actions that are consistent with your faith. Our actions are where our faith becomes apparent to others. And looking out at all you today, I see people of faith. I firmly believe that Timbercrest and our Fellowship of Brethren Home members are successful because of the people within their communities, people who practice their faith, who act upon their faith. It's residents, it's employees, it's the board of directors, it's volunteers, it's donors. So many people living their lives based upon their faith in the one true living God. These people have good thoughts, good intentions, which produce good actions, which have formed good habits, and have become part of the character, their individual character, and the character of the organization. The aggregate of all of this has resulted in success for Timbercrest and for our other members. Practicing, for me, means a regular process, a regular effort to have our actions conform to an established goal, whether it's playing a musical instrument, learning to play the piano, learning a language, engaging in an athletic event, or our Christian faith. It all requires practice. In all cases, it begins with a thought, I want to do that, and an intent and a goal. And it begins with a focus on that desired end. Performing at a concert, being able to converse comfortably in a foreign language, running a race, or imitating Christ in our faith walk. It begins with the thought which results in an action, which soon becomes a habit, which transforms into a character, our character, which determines our destiny. Practice, practice, practice. Unfortunately, practice doesn't make perfect. There are brief moments of perfection or near perfection, but ongoing, consistent perfection, it's not going to happen. But practice can have amazing results. It can transform what we do and who we are, but it means practice. So we should be about practicing our faith. We should be about having good thoughts to help us, which would help us perform good actions, develop good habits, and develop a positive, healthy, helpful, caring nature and character. Maybe all of this is summed up by the words of that familiar song, "They will know we are Christians by our love." In closing, I'd like to use the words of a hymn. And it's the hymn 308 in the red hymnal. And let us use this as our closing prayer. Lord, I would be true, for there are those who trust me. Lord, I would be pure, for there are those who care. Lord, I would be strong, for there is much to suffer. I would be brave, for there is much to dare. I would be friend of all, the foe, the friendless. I would be giving and forget the gift. I would be humble, for I know my weakness. I would look up and laugh and love and lift. I would be prayerful through each busy moment. I would be constantly in touch with you. I would be tuned to hear your slightest whisper. I would have faith to keep the path Christ trod. Amen. I trust the rest of your day will be a blessing, and that as you are blessed, you will be a blessing to others. Amen.
Morning, Betty. Good to see you. Yeah.